Did you know that Alan Moore cut his teeth on Captain Britain back in the early 80s and laid the foundations for the Marvel Multiverse and helped shape Watchmen, Swamp Thing, and MiracleMan? Hi everyone, and welcome back to Still Only 35 Cents, your regular dose of vintage comics and collectibles. For this one, we are showcasing the most important and rarest Captain Britain books and the start of the Alan Moore and Alan Davis little-known genre-breaking run that redefined the superhero as well as the Marvel Universe. But before we get started, if you're new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button and ringing the notification bell for future videos just like this one. Captain Britain was launched by Marvel UK way back in October 1976 and initially ran for 39 weekly issues until July 1977. The title introduced us to our hero, aka Brian Braddock, a mythical superhero tied to Merlin and Arthurian legend. After his initial run, Captain Britain made the jump across the ditch to appear in Marvel Team Up issue 65 alongside Spider-Man. That story was reprinted in the newly titled Super Spider-Man and Captain Britain Weekly in the UK, where his adventures continued until he left the book just a short 22 issues later in issue 253. Captain Britain would turn up in a smattering of other stories over the subsequent years, including Marvel's Contest of Champions 3-issue miniseries, Spidey Super Stories, and as a supporting character in the Black Knight comic strip published in Marvel UK's Hulk Comic Weekly. That was until Marvel Superheroes issue 377, published in September 1981, when Marvel UK reintroduced Captain Britain in his own strip with a brand new costume designed by Alan Davis. Davis, in one of his first published works alongside writer at the time Dave Thorpe, had Captain Britain and his tiny elf companion Jackdaw return to a strange version of Earth following on from the events in the Black Knight story from Hulk Comic Weekly. Over the course of the next 11 issues, Captain Britain would find himself and his companion stranded in this alternate reality Britain, an oppressive state straight out of 1984, fighting alongside the mysterious Saturnine and her avant-garde, who were seeking to elevate the people of this world with a mysterious liquid substance, while the corrupt status crew wanted to preserve things as they were and safeguard Britain. It is revealed that this alternate Earth, later designated as Earth 238, is a fascist hellscape where all beings with superpowers have been rounded up and exterminated, ruled over by a psychotic mutant with reality warping powers named Mad Jim Jaspers. Dave Thorpe would write 8 issues of this Captain Britain storyline, starting in issue 377 of Marvel Superheroes through to the controversial issue 384, which featured a thinly veiled story about the Northern Ireland Troubles. The controversy behind the story would see him forced to leave the book and resulted in Paul Neary writing a fill-in story for issue 385. Although Dave Thorpe was credited as writer for issue 386, the story was apparently heavily rewritten by an uncredited Alan Moore, with the final page being the first of the Moore run on Captain Britain. This is where things go horribly wrong and all the efforts of the protagonists are undone by the reality warping Mad Jim Jaspers. Alan Moore would later reveal in the 2002 collected edition of the Jaspers Warp storyline that he neither inaugurated nor completely understood the storyline at play. Alan Moore's run proper would begin in Marvel Superheroes 387 of July 1982, where he would reintroduce Mad Jim Jaspers, but also the unstoppable killing machine called the Fury. This utterly terrifying monstrosity, described as a symbiote, was an unstoppable amalgam of flesh and metal, built with one mission in mind: to kill superheroes. A fact highlighted by Alan Davis's iconic visual design and, in my view, one of the best designs in comics. The first thing the Fury does is unleash its full firepower on Cap's companion Jackdaw, vaporizing him from the torso down with the little elf dying in Captain Britain's arms. It was clear at this point that this was not going to be your traditional superhero story. In the following issue, Marvel Superheroes issue 388, after being taunted by Jaspers and distraught over the loss of his friend, Captain Britain stumbles upon a graveyard of the fallen heroes, including one for MiracleMan. At the time this story was published in 1983, the character was still called Marvel Man, but ironically, Moore employed the alternate MiracleMan name for the character's cameo. Finding an open grave with the name Captain UK on it, he ponders its significance and breaks down before the Fury kills him by blowing him away. Captain UK would later be revealed as a female Captain Britain variant who had escaped Mad Jim Jaspers' world and his cull of superheroes by slipping away into the main Marvel 616 universe. I recently picked up a high grade of Marvel Superheroes issue 377 through to issue 389 from one of my favourite UK auction houses, Excalibur Auctions. So let's take a look inside together. So here we have Marvel Superheroes issue 377. This is actually a continuation of Mighty World of Marvel and features the first relaunch and new costume of Captain Britain with this great cover by Alan Davis. Just look at the quality of this one, in pretty good shape. Reckon somewhere in the 9s for this one. But let's have a quick look at that first appearance of Captain Britain. There he is again on the front page. And if we move to page 43, and there is your first appearance. Script by Dave Thorpe and art by a very, very young Alan Davis, with plot and editing by Paul Neary. And there is his old costume transferring to the brand new costume designed by Alan Davis. Let's have a quick look through. The first, Mad Jim Jaspers 2. Great to see this early Alan Davis art. Wonderful. And all of these, as you can see, are in really good shape. This is issue 378, continuation of Captain Britain within. This is pre the Alan Moore days. Let's see if we can find the page in question. Some great old school Avengers. And at the back, Captain Britain story again by Dave Thorpe and art by Alan Davis. Beautiful condition again. Hard to find these in high grade. This one's not in such a great shape, but this is issue 379 of Marvel Superheroes. Let's check out the Captain Britain story here. Again, great art by Alan Davis, very early on. Edited by Paul Neary, who would go on to work with Alan in the future. Interesting power from Captain Britain there with the hand. Never seen that before, never seen it since. Another beautiful looking copy, issue 380 of Marvel Superheroes. Let's see, Captain Britain on page 4 with the first appearance of Sat9. This story was set in an alternative universe, and again you can see the new power set by Captain Britain here. And him changed into a chimp. Beautiful condition. Hard to find these ones, particularly in high grade. So really happy to pick these up. Marvel Superheroes issue 381, again great condition. Just look at this Beautifully presenting, very sharp corners, very few, if any, spine ticks. Let's have a look at the Captain Britain story. Great stuff from Alan Davis. This great Captain Britain cover here with Saturnine on there as well. Issue 382 of Marvel Superheroes. Beautiful condition again. Just look at that. Fabulous stuff. Captain Britain again on page 4. Let us see here. Bit of a study of Captain Britain battling. Black cover. This one's always tough, but this is in immaculate shape. Just look at that. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Let's see what the Captain Britain story has in store for us. Faces of Britain. Great. Issue 384 with this Hawkeye cover of Marvel Superheroes. Captain Britain, Friends and Neighbours, the controversial story, which was a social commentary on the Troubles in Belfast at the time. Great art there from Alan Davis. Beautiful. Issue 385 of Marvel Superheroes. Let's check out Captain Britain. Reintroduction. Alan Davis again on art. And you can see his art style is starting to become reminiscent of his current style. And so obviously was drawing this and really improving as he went along the way. Very early in his career here. Great stuff. This is 386. So this one is interesting. Marvel Superheroes issue 386. It actually features the handover for Alan Moore when he began writing Captain Britain. So this is quite important because the last page actually sets up his introduction to the story. But again, beautiful condition. Excellent, excellent condition. Very hard to find these, as I say. Beautifully presenting. So I will be getting these graded. Let's have a look at the Captain Britain story. As you can see here, again, script by Dave Thorpe. But again, the last page of this story is by Alan Moore as he ramps up for the run. So this page here is the first Marvel Captain Britain work by Alan Moore and leads in to two of the most important issues in the Marvel Superheroes run and the introduction of Alan Moore and Alan Davis' now classic and little known Captain Britain run. Beautiful condition. And this is the book that you want to be looking for. This is issue 387, the first appearance of the Fury, and a great Captain Britain cover with the death of Jackdaw. Issue 387, Marvel Superheroes. Beautiful painted cover by Alan Davis here. And as you can see, this is in immaculate shape. Beautiful sharp corners. I have got others of this graded, but nowhere near as good. Might have to do a bit of work to see if we can get rid of that dust shadow. But outside of that, this book presents beautifully. And let's have a look at the story inside so you get a sense. There it is. Co-creators Alan Moore and Alan Davis. And there is your first appearance of the Fury, the superhero killing robot. Absolutely stunning stuff. And there's the death of Jackdaw. and the reintroduction of Mad Jim Jaspers. What's also of note in here is beautiful stuff. Awesome cup. But 387 is also valuable alongside this issue, issue 388. This again in beautiful condition. One tiny little spine tick there that I can see, and maybe a little bit of damage in the corner, but other than that, presents absolutely beautifully. Really tough to get this in high grade. Let's have a look at the story. This one's important because it marks the end of the current Captain Britain run and the restart in the Daredevils issue. But at the time, this was the end of the storyline. Again, Alan Moore and Alan Davis with Mad Jim Jaspers telling his story. What's notable about this is you get the first mention of MiracleMan alongside a host of other UK Golden Age superheroes at the time. So the first mention of MiracleMan in comics. And sadly, the death of Captain Britain. Where do we go from here? Issue 389 is an interesting one. Rather than the Captain Britain strip, even though Captain Britain's on the cover, it does feature a history by Alan Moore of Captain Britain. So a great one to read. So obviously Alan had immersed himself immensely into the lore of the character before embarking on the story. And great to see that. And as I say, teasing that the story is not yet over and the best is yet to come. Referred to as Jaspers Warp, this groundbreaking story will be completed in the Daredevils issue 1 through issue 11, before it concluded in Mighty World of Marvel issue 7 through to issue 13, when Moore left the title. These following stories saw Captain Britain resurrected, and in the process we get a new perspective of his origin that reveals that what we had believed before was actually false. The old stories are thus reinterpreted in a colder, more scientific light. We also learn that Captain Britain has a greater cosmic significance as part of the Captain Britain Corps, the Multiverse Protectors. Of note, the story arc would establish the concept of Earth 616 and pitted our hero against the reality-warping fascist Mad Jim Jaspers. Whilst Alan Moore didn't invent alternate universes in comics, his creation of the Earth 616 designation remains a significant influence of his work and shaped the Marvel Multiverse in both the comics and the MCU. Alan Moore's and Alan Davis's Captain Britain run certainly feels like a trial run for both this newish writer and artist, both trying out some tricks for the first time. Moore's scripts certainly challenge Davis, and you can really see his progression as an artist throughout the run. What makes it even more impressive is that Davis was only doing comics part-time when he first started, making his real money as a forklift operator. But it's Moore's evolution here that truly shines through, and you can see that he was trying things that would later go on to use in his runs on MiracleMan, Swamp Thing and Watchmen. Like most British comics at the time, the stories were published in black and white. However, they've since been recoloured for various presentations in the American market. That said, this entire run is hard to find due to many of the editions being out of print. However, I would recommend the 1995 through to 1996 series X-Men Archives featuring Captain Britain, which features the entire Jaspers Warp run as well as some interesting Easter eggs and extras, including unreleased covers and Alan Davis's original designs for Captain Britain. I'd love to know your comments down below on this little known Alan Moore and Alan Davis run. Did you know about it? Have you read it? If so, what part of the Jaspers Warp storyline do you think had the biggest impact on the Marvel Universe or Alan Moore's future work? And with that, Thanks as always for watching, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all next issue. Don't forget to check out other great videos, as well as follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X. We also host a weekly live stream, the Merry Monday Mail Call Show, every Monday morning at 7:30 AM Australian Eastern Time. Nuff said.